Hello, people. This week I read The 100,000 Kingdoms. It's read it on ye old Kindle by N.K. Jemisin. Is that the first book I've read of her? No, I read another one where she wrote on a Mass Effect book. I think that's it. Good writing. It is good writing. Do I have issues? Of course I have issues. But I'll explain the issues in this video. It's part of a trilogy, I think. It might be 3, maybe 4 books. I don't remember off the top of my head. It starts us off fairly quickly, and then of course past starts to have an effect on our story. I don't have too much of a problem with this. I say too much when we're thinking of things like the God Wars. It becomes very interesting subject matter for me, and I'm kind of interested in it. But the story as it's happening is good enough that I'm not just bored of A and only want B. Sometimes that happens in books where, the backstory should have been the main story. That's not the case here. It's a viable enough story. I would take a prequel, but it's a viable enough story. We start with a girl named Jemisin. She's half Dar, half Arameri. Arameri being sort of your highbrow ruling class of people, Dar being more of your jungle barbarian vibe. Very women warrior energy situation. Now, some of it has, I would think, for certain people, a woke vibe, but the vibe doesn't hit hard, if that makes sense. It's not trying to preach to you in that sense. So you don't have to worry too much about that. She gets called to the Imperial City. I think it's called Sky. And, we get right into it. The world building here, I really had a lot of fun with. And I think if we could have followed it through, I guess to the nth degree, it would have been a much better book, to be honest. It would have been more highly recommendable. I think it would have just worked better. So what we have, she goes to the Imperial City. The guy in charge is Descartes. This is her grandfather. He's saying now, I'm picking you as a possible heir. So now it's her and 2 others. Scamina and Riyad, I think is his name. Riyad? Something like this. I didn't write it down. I should have. He's not. He mostly just sort of drinks. He's more of a, your typical useless royal. He gives that vibe. But sort of your early plot dynamic is that they have to fight it out amongst the 3 as to who is going to be the one in charge. And our girl, Ian, is like, I don't know anything about politics. I'm probably going to get dead here. This is the vibe of a lot of the book. The part that makes it sort of, more than just generically fun, because good politics is always fun, is, this is an imperial city built by the gods, wherein the gods still reside. So what had happened is there was a war between the gods. And the main god, or I guess the top, somehow he won. It's Itempus, the god of law, of light, of order. He won out, and he cast the rest of them down, and he bound them into mortal bodies, and then he made them subservient to this one family, Arameri family. And that's what this Imperial City is. It's everyone in the family, well, most everyone. Everyone who matters is there. And to some degree, they're sorted out. And the sorting determines how much of the gods you can control, etc., etc. So your three heirs, these are just right below. One of them will be king, ruler, whatever they want to call it. We'll get like a black dot here, moon-looking situation. And as you go down, third cousin twice removed. Maybe it's just a bar of black or a bar and some signals around it, kind of like a military ranking. And everyone sees it, and then the gods will see it at night. So that, one, you know where you stand. Two, the gods deal with you as they deal with you. But also, if you don't have one, at night, the palace is dangerous and you could just get dead by these gods. I mean, it really comes at you kind of quick. But this part of the story is fantastic to me. I love this idea. I love the idea of a grand fantastical palace that was built by, this ruling family who can on command control the gods. There's also a fantastic dynamic between, of course, your people, your mortals, and the gods. Not in the typical sense, right? So we're moving about and then the gods do stuff to us. Because these gods are chained. They're enslaved. So now I have a dynamic of, I have gods chained who want to kill me, who want to do damage whenever they can, but they have to listen to orders. So it's your, be careful what you wish of the genie because he might take it literally situation. You say an order the wrong way, and he has a loophole that, leaves you without any arms and legs, but you're technically still alive. He might be able to do that because you messed up in how you talked. So you have to be very careful in dealing with them. They're subjugated, but they're not on your side. They're not friendly. So our girl comes into a situation with a lot of things against her. But it's a fun dynamic. That part, again, I have no problem with this at all. Now, early in the book, it's not as annoying as it becomes. But early in, this girl gets there and has questions. She needs information to politically be safer. I don't think she thinks she's going to win. I'm not sure why. I would have just checked out. You go to the strongest one and say, I'm just going to, we're all going to pick you. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go against me. Which seems like a good idea, but then as things unfold, because the gods are involved, a certain amount of literal human sacrifice is going to get involved in crowning this next king. So your politics gets a lot trickier in that sense. But early on, she's very out of the loop. We have a lot of people talking to her in vague ways, hints, this kind of energy, which, again, is fine early, but as we get later on, I'm like, can you just tell me what the crap's happening? This kind of a vibe starts to hit you. I will have to mention, it's in first person, and I don't think the first person... It's not done as great as you would think. It doesn't, I understand what's trying to happen, but it doesn't end up working for me. It's a bit confused until about the middle 2/3 into the book where you start to understand what's happening, wherein I think the main point our author picked first person is because our character ends up being having two souls. One hers, one of the vanquished gods. And, of course, the enslaved gods are trying to bring back this god to free themselves and then overthrow, the god of light. The main guy who's, free. That's our vibe on that end. And our story will have chunks where The other voice speaks. The other essence, right? So the soul has an essence and it has memories, and those memories are bubbling up and in and out. We're trying to get that across, I think. But I don't know if the first person's the best angle for this. It was, as I'm reading it, I'm a little lost, which I guess if that was your point, to have me as lost as the character, then in that sense it worked. But in other senses, it didn't. Maybe too much descriptions of this or that. At some point, when you see magical crap, you're less concerned about, maybe the shape of a door or the couch, and more concerned about crazy crap you're seeing. And first person's a point of view that is internal to that character. And so now I have to... I don't think there's good ways that they found to verbalize the descriptors they wanted. They just sort of crammed them in, and I'm like, this part it gets muddled. There is also... there's some sexy time in this between our Yain and... who is this? Nahadoth, the Night Lord. Very vampire, sexy vibe to this, but I don't feel like these work too great either. We get a kind of energy wherein the gods fight, and then she has it so where that fight turns into, I guess, passionate lovemaking or something. I don't get how one gets to the other. It's not like warring armies start having mass orgies. You just get more mad. Right? But this is the angle we went with. I feel it's kind of one and two of the gods, they're they're related, but again, we're dealing with gods, so it's not the same rules. But we get a incest vibe, because I read word brother and then you read sex. But I think it's more of a bit of a shock value. Same with the sex in general. I'm trying to sizzle up my story maybe a little. That's as much that came across to me. I mean, story-wise, I don't think it propels enough to overshadow this vibe that I get off of it. But it is, in some instances, fairly graphic. So, there's a warning there. I don't think it fits the book too well at all. That's just me. But then I think it leads us to the root problem I have with the book. And that is our source, our origin. This is the gods, the God War. And it's like a scaling issue. Right? So, we describe in the book this Nahadoth is just... he comes out of the maelstrom, the black, endless void of nothing. And then he's in existence. And he can then see existence and non-existence. I mean, we're right at the roots of everything. And so you have to scale that, you have to scale that right. If you're doing your Lord of the Rings, we start, the Lord of the Rings doesn't, but the Tolkien lore does, wherein Iluvatar sings existence in, what is it? Morgoth adds his own music because he's power, he thinks the music should go this way instead of that. This skews the music. This is where some of our evil vibes are going to start to come from. Iluvatar mends the issue. We have a concept of how the gods are functioning, but they have to then cover all the things. If you look at your old biblioteca as literature, not religious, what you have in the Bible is, of course, God created the light and the dark. He separated the firmaments, He made all the creatures of their kind come forth. He said it was good, right? He covers all the things. So when you have a story of gods, you have to cover all the things. And to me, one of the things that wasn't covered, that's a root problem, is right and wrong. So, if I'm a God that likes change, I'm saying change is the thing. Then my brother, Tempest, comes and he says, I want to make order, and order must be the thing. Then these two, do they clash? There's no such thing as conflict. There's no reason I can't make separate realities, separate existences. It even says the other, what's the other god's name? Anefa. Anefa makes multiple existences and makes stuff in those existences the other two don't see. You don't explain to me why the original two didn't make their own existences. Why wouldn't they use so if Anefa made other existences and my Night Lord Nahadoth is in conflict, if he says things should be disorderly and a Tempest says they should be orderly, why couldn't one of them use a secondary existence and say, I'll take this existence where everything's the way I want it, and he can have this one where everything's the way he wants it. There's no reason for them to stay where they are. They don't have limiters. If they're inventing existence and non-existence, if they invent realms of reality, then they don't have the limitation that says, I have to be here to fight. When countries go to war, it's for a reason. That reason doesn't go away. Neither is there anywhere for those people to go get away from it. I say I own everything to the left of the river. You say I own everything in this peninsula. We have a problem. You need to leave. Well, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to make you leave. I'm not going to be made to leave. We're going to sort it out, with iron and blood. There's no reason that has to be for the gods. And it doesn't seem like much. But these things, the odd third person, these things start to inhibit the enjoyment of a reread or reread or reread. And maybe you'll say, all books don't have to be reread, but I think we readers like to. Some people have nostalgic feelings, right? I have nostalgia for high school, for football, for whatever the thing is, for the doo-wop era. And you'll see them on these TV shows on the Pickers, wherein they collect it all and sit around it so that they're in it as much as they can be, because outside of their homes or their dens or their hobby rooms, the thing doesn't exist anymore. Your bellhop, your soda jerks, your doo-wop on vinyl, it doesn't. It's the 50s is over. The whole world is different. But for us readers, we get the same vibe in a nostalgia vibe, but our nostalgia is alive. Everything in Dune, nothing's changed. It's still exactly the same as I read it last time. And I can go through the process of this. And at this point, I'm at that point in the book. It's like a living nostalgia. That's the fun of a reread. So when you sort of give me a book that can't be reread, it's a bit of a disappointment. And I can't help but notice these things. It snags me as I'm reading, because I've read a bunch of books. It's just what happens. And that, lessens the enjoyment. We also have, we have Nahadoth is a god of chaos. He likes things to be different. A Tempest is a god of order, and Anefa is the god of twilight and dawn. This is the times in between the light and the dark. That makes sense. But she's also then the goddess of life and death. Again, there's no rule that says you can't, but it seems to be at odds with itself. Everything that makes life wouldn't want death around. I would think you'd need another god just to deal with death. But if you don't, it's the personality of this god. One that can withstand life and death. And then it's about, if we're bringing up death and life. I'm not exactly sure why it is one of the three gods can be killed when the other two can't. Now you say maybe, they're even Stevens. Well, if they're even, I'm not sure how light imprisoned darkness. But that's what happened. Now it does say that any of the two can outmatch the third. But we have, this is what our soul in the girl was for. Where she was dead, but some piece of her existed. They want to grab that piece and reawaken her. And I'm like, I don't see why we can't. But they sort of just say no, she's actually just gone. But as long as existence is around and some piece of her is alive, it got vague. Now, maybe, see, if you need the god of chaos, to have any randomity in existence, and you need a god of light to have any light, and I need a god of life and death, then I don't see how that god can die and all life not die. Now, if you go, everything, that's why we have a mortal realm. But she's a goddess. Why wouldn't her death inject death into the realm of the gods? I don't know. It doesn't say. This is the main issue I have with the book. There's no good answer. We end up with sort of our main character becomes the new goddess of life vibe. She overthrows the one that was in charge. She frees the other ones. There's going to be a bit of a chaos element to it. She's now seeing the world through goddesses' eyes. That part all works really well to me. That part's pretty cool. She technically dies too. Weird vibes like this. And that's where it ends, wherein she's now friends with half these gods, and the other guy, what did she do? She makes him wander the earth and help people until he's cooled off. And what, you can't, the light shines. The light is bright. I read one Norse mythology that handles this duality really well. What do they say? They call it Godhead. The God's head, meaning if Loki's dealing with you, he's Loki and I can stab him. But when he needs to do something fantastical, he puts the mantle of a god on and then he goes and does it. His choice is to put it on or off. And it's not fair, and humans have to deal with that unfairness. But it's the way it is. I didn't get that mechanism in this book, and my brain isn't filling it in. I have no way to shut it off, so I have no way to say why one god can die and the others can't. Is it that God choosing to? I'm just going to kill myself. I'm going to allow myself to be dead. I'm going to allow death into me. But if I created it, the same way as they create existence, how can a thing that I created have more power over me than me to kill me? It's sort of like a loop on itself. That it doesn't end up working for me. That is the 100,000 Kingdoms. I probably, because it's fun enough. It's a fun popcorn book. It's fun enough. I'll probably read the next one in the series. I have them all. I got one of those big, all-encompassing bundle situations. So they're all there. So I might as well read it. But I wonder what we're going to do about these issues. Or if I can just get over them. I don't know. But that's the 100,000 Kingdoms, and these are your ads. As viewers will know, these are my books, and you can buy my books, and then I'll get money, and then I'll do stuff with the money. You can get it on Kindle Unlimited. That's sort of like a Spotify for books. You can straight buy them off Amazon. You don't have to buy any of them. You can just listen to the channel. You can comment. You can like. You can subscribe. You can just fly in and out like a bat. It's all good. We're all good here. Even if you're a bat, we're fine. Vampires welcome. Okay, people. I will talk to you all next week.